And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of As Good as It Gets. I'm Rickey Hampton, along with former New Jersey Nets shooting guard, now Brooklyn Nets, uh, Derek Gervin. D, Happy New Year, brother. I hope you had a great holiday season. It's been a minute since we've been on the air over the weekend. Uh, Everything's going on in every sport. We're heading into the NFL playoffs. Uh, NBA season is moving on, man. We're about a third of the way through. The in-season tournament is over. The Lakers won the in-season tournament. I think they forgot that you still have to play about 60 more games after that because they went straight downhill since then. They've been struggling. But man, it's good to see you, my brother.
Happy New Year, Ricky. Good to see you as well, man. I'm glad to see you. A whole lot going on. You ain't even get to Michigan and Washington as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. The national championship in college football will be Monday night. Yeah. Hey, any early picks on that game, D? I know where your heart is.
Oh, I'm going with Michigan. I think Michigan. I'm just glad they got over that scandal about the sign stealing and all that. They've proven that they're actually a really, really good team. And hey, they've beaten the best. I mean, they beat Alabama last week, so I'm very excited. And I like Michael Penix Jr. I thought he should have been the Heisman winner, but there's no question. I'm picking Michigan to win this game. And I want them to win, but I honestly expect them to win.
Man, that Penix Jr., he can throw that ball, man. My goodness, he makes some passes that are just extraordinarily accurate. Yeah, D, you gotta catch it because it's so on you. You have no choice but to catch the ball when Penix throws it to you.
Wow, he's very accurate. I don't know how that'll translate when he gets to the pros because I know, the guys are bigger and a little faster. But if you look at him in college, I mean, he's a precision passer. He throws it through the little tight windows. He's everything that you could ask for in a college quarterback. And I'm glad to see him have a type year that he had to carry his team to an undefeated season. I thought Washington played very well.
Yeah, I remember Penix. He started off at Indiana and I think he had a really good freshman or sophomore year. Then he tore his ACL. He's torn his ACL a couple of times. But even with two torn ACL, he still gets around. He's not running like Justin Fields or Lamar Jackson, but he moves well enough to advance the ball if he needs to.
He got injured twice, but it kind of reminds me of how KD, Kevin Durant, was able to come back and still have a stellar career. And I'm hoping the same will happen for Michael. I know the pros is a different animal, but hey, you take it one day at a time. You only have to be liked by one team out of 32. So I hope he at least gets the opportunity to fulfill his dream.
Yeah, he will definitely. He'll be a first round pick. I'm pretty sure. Hey, Derek, coming out of high school, coming out of Martin Luther King High School in Detroit, you were recruited by Michigan for basketball back in the day, weren't
Yes, sir. If I didn't move to Texas, my choices were only between Michigan and DePaul. And DePaul was number one in the country at that time, so they kind of had my ear a little bit. And then I got a visit from the great Ray Meyer and his son Joey Meyer, so they were on my radar. But of course, Michigan was my other favorite. I believe Maize and Blue. So at the last moment, at the last minute, I probably would have ended up with the Maize and Blue.
And speaking of Ray Meyer, the legendary DePaul coach, and his son Joey just passed away last week at the age of 73 years old. I mean, those two carried the DePaul basketball tradition for for many, many years. And in fact, Derek, you probably know a good friend of mine out of Flint, Michigan, Flint Central, Terrence T. Green. Did you ever play against
I
T.
know the name.
Green? Yeah, yeah, and
No, but I know who
he
he is.
went on. Yeah, and he played. He actually played at DePaul for Coach Meyer.
Quite a player as well.
Yeah, yeah. T. Green was a great athlete, also a great football player, high school football player. He could have played college football or high school football. But yeah, that's going to be a great game Monday. And I'm thinking Harbaugh is gone either way, D. Especially if he wins. Think about it. He'll leave with a national championship and beating arch rival Ohio State 3 straight times. I mean, what would be left for him to prove?
And I'm excited about that. And I think they're going to go ahead and seal the deal. And I'm excited to see where his future leads, because for me, I honestly believe that he's ready to go back to the NFL. And what better team for him to go to than the LA Chargers? So I'm hoping he gets to go out to California, and we can watch the competition between the Harbaugh brothers.
Yeah, I think he'll go because he's dealing with the NCAA every year. It seems like there's something going on. He was suspended for a total of 6 games this year, 3 early in the year and 3 later in the year. Had the whole controversy about the Spygate, whatever you want to call it. He had to pay the price for that, and I'm sure he just probably wants to challenge number one of winning a Super Bowl, because if he wins this national championship, a Super Bowl will be the only thing he couldn't put on his coaching resume, and not having to deal with the NCAA anymore.
He'll have an opportunity to leave college and go right to the team if he goes where I think he's going. I picked at the beginning of the year, I picked Justin Herbert as my MVP favorite. So I know if he got that opportunity, it'd be hard to pass up a job when you get to go in and coach Justin Herbert, who I still think has 10, 12, maybe more good years left.
Yeah, he's only 25, man. He's just starting.
I love the guy. They had a kind of down year this year, Ricky, but if you look at it overall, he's a star. He's a superstar. So if I was a coach and I get to leave an opportunity after winning the championship in Michigan, I fulfilled everything that I wanted to do there, and then I get to walk into LA and coach a guy of that magnitude, I definitely have to entertain.
Hey, Derek, what were your thoughts? And we're going to get to on to professional sports, and especially I got a lot of questions for you regarding the NBA. But what are your thoughts on the transfer portal? A lot of guys choosing not to play in some of the bowl games and declaring for the draft and moving on to other schools. Do you think that just your thoughts on that whole new landscape in college football now? Because back in the day, you always played in the bowl game, no matter what. It could be the least bowl game there was. Everybody played. Nobody set out bowl games. But now guys are making that decision, which I understand with the draft coming up and how physical this game is to do that. But what are your thoughts on that?
This is a hard one for me, Ricky, because when it first happened, I was all for it, and I still am somewhat. The only thing I don't like about it is when we talk about college, universities, and we used to talk about how education was the first priority. And now it's that's been replaced by the almighty dollar. And the problem I have with it is some of the guys are reaping the benefits and some of the guys are not. And that's the only problem I have. I hope they can find a way to kind of, even it out a little bit, make it a little more fair so that all the guys can receive some sort of compensation. But I would never be upset when the guys they have an opportunity to go out here and make thousands and maybe even a few of them even millions of dollars. So that part I like. I just figure I hope they can find a way to kind of balance it out so some of the other guys don't get left out. And I kind of still want people to remember that education is first, because some of these players I did not go to college to play so that they could play in the NFL. Some actually had dreams of just going to be a great college player and then moving on to their field of choice after that. So I support it, but I just hope that they could tweak a few of the things and just make it kind of balance out even a little better for all the players involved.
Yeah. Kirby Smart was talking about the system after his Georgia Bulldogs beat up on Florida State 63-3 in the Orange Bowl, and Florida State were missing 10 to 15 of their best players. And, Florida State at first was saying, hey, man, we belonged in the playoffs and all that, which I totally get. They were 13-0 in a Power 5 conference. But Smart even said it himself. He said, just paraphrasing, that wasn't a real Florida State team we beat tonight. It wasn't even fair to the kids that were out there because they didn't have all of their arsenal.
Well, they lost a quarterback early in the season, and that kind of hurt them. A lot of teams had Florida. A lot of people had them as one of the top 2 or 3 teams early in the year. And then, of course, some people questioned the league when they, put Florida number 4. Some people are upset about that, and then they dropped them out. And if you look at it, the committee looked like they was right on it. They didn't. What they was trying to avoid was what we saw last year with TCU getting the brakes beat off of them. So if you look back at it, people that were mad, they can't be mad now. They lost the quarterback. We see how important he was. And, of course, some of the other players sat out. But, man, when you get beat like that, I mean, I have to say the committee made the right decision.
Yeah, you just go back home and get ready for next year, man. Never mind. Forget what we were talking about. Never mind. But now, next year we won't have this issue because next year there'll be 12 teams. So much for I don't know when the guys are supposed to study, but as you were saying earlier, I don't know how much academics is playing a role in college athletics now, because if 12 teams are in it, Michigan and Washington are about to play their 14th or 15th game of the year. So that means next year's champion could play maybe 18 games. That's a whole NFL season for college football.
They made it kind of obvious about how money is a factor, because what I didn't like was how they had Texas and Alabama rated number 7 and 8 in the last polling. And then to pass up the other teams, Oregon and whoever it may have been, so that they could put the 2 money schools in the Final Four. I had a problem with that. I think they could have handled it a little better. I could see one of the teams going, Alabama or Texas, but not both. And I thought that was very unfair. We know some other teams. Oregon had a really good season. Mississippi, there were some other good teams that could fit right in the loop. But I just hated to see them move the 7 and 8 team up over teams that I thought were justified and had an opportunity to be there, but they were passed up by the big money schools.
Well, you said it. I mean, the cachet Alabama football and Texas football carries was the difference in that.
Well, hey, I guess they, I didn't think this year for me the SEC wasn't that great. I didn't think Georgia was that great. I just didn't think the conference was all that this year. They had some up and down. Some of the top teams struggled. They won some games, but they didn't win in a great fashion. And Georgia struggled early in the season, and I didn't at no point in the season did I think they were like the top team. I usually do my own poll, and I didn't have Georgia at the top at the beginning. I didn't have them at the top at the end. So I was glad to at least see them move down. I honestly didn't think they would drop out of the top four after winning 29 games in a row and being number one. I thought that was a big drop, but when you factor in the money again, I guess, hey, the committee made the decisions they thought were best for everyone.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, that game will be Monday night, and we'll see. We'll see what happens, and I'm really interested to see what happens with Jim Harbaugh. I think it could be his last game at the University of Michigan, where of course he played his college career there. And we got the NFL playoffs coming up. D, who do you like going into the playoffs?
You know I don't like to change my picks, so I'm going with the two teams that I picked early. And I know a lot of people laughed when I made my picks, but they always laugh when I make my picks. I actually picked the Buffalo Bills, who, as you know, were struggling all the way up until week 12. I picked the Detroit Lions. I picked the two teams in blue, the Detroit Lions, the Buffalo Bills Super Bowl. And a lot of people might think I'm crazy, but in this game, it's who gets hot at the right time. I think Buffalo has gotten hot at the right time, and I think this game of Detroit, where they were robbed against the Cowboys, I think that's going to be a motivating factor for them in the playoffs. And I think we're going to have a surprise. I don't think it's going to be like the Ravens and the 49ers or the Cowboys. I think we're going to have some upsets. Cleveland's going to knock off someone, I believe, possibly in the first round. You got some teams that can cause some problems. They playing very well. And then, with the old man quarterback in Cleveland.
Flacco.
Oh, yeah, you talking about Mr. Joe Flacco. I think that gives them an opportunity. They're playing really, really good ball. They have a really good defense. And I just think it's going to be some upsets. But right now, my picks would be Buffalo versus Detroit.
You don't think Detroit? I mean, I love the Lions. That's my team. But you don't think they're a little young? I mean, Goff has experience.
I think Dan Campbell. Sometimes Ricky, youth prevails. And you hear a lot of people say that teams have never been there before and all of that stuff. But no team won until the first time they won. So,
touche. That's a good one.
Well, I just believe the way they've been playing this year has been consistent. I picked them at the beginning of the year to go 12-5. I still believe in them, and I just think they're going to shake some things up. I just think it's the year of Detroit. It's the year of Michigan, and here we go.
All right, man. Well, we'll see. We got to get past Sunday. Still a lot of teams up in the air, but I think everybody's scared of Buffalo over there because they really kind of hit their stride. And this is when you want to start playing your good ball, man.
Ricky, I'm sorry. The reason I picked them in Detroit and the reason I say that I still think they got a good opportunity is because if you look at certain teams like the Cowboys, right, their weakness is the running game. And there's some teams in their running game's weakness defensively. And if you look at us with Montgomery, we have a good running back. And then you look at Buffalo now, they've been playing Mr. Cook like they should have been, and he's been running the ball well. So I just think these two teams are on an upward swing. I think they're both going to make some noise in the playoffs.
Yeah. I can't really debate that much. Although I am concerned about Detroit's youth, but the one thing about the Lions, man, they play with an edge, and they won't be afraid. That's one of the things Campbell has given them. They definitely come out with an edge. He gets them ready to play.
Ricky, what scares you the most? Is it their youth or is it their secondary?
Their youth, because they're getting some guys back in the secondary now. They get C.J. Gardner Johnson back this week. Who, he led the league in interceptions last year. He's been out most of the year. Uh, and the defense has actually been playing well the last 3 weeks. So think about it. The Cowboys was averaging 40 points a game, and they really did a good job on them. And even, CeeDee Lamb went off for 200 yards, but 92 of those were a gift where the linebacker, Derek Brooks, had a clean shot on Dak Prescott. It ran right by him, D.
Yeah.
Ran right by him. It's like, you forgot something, dude. So now their defense has really begun to play well, and they can move the football. But being a Lions fan is hard, Derek. You know that. So I still got to get used to them being in this situation.
You know what it kind of reminds me of, though, and it's not the reason I say youth is not a bad thing is because when you first looked at Kansas City, when when they first started,
Yeah.
you have to start from somewhere, and then they had Andy Reid, and I just thought that they had a really good coach that they could believe in, and of course we got a good one. He's a little quirky. He's a quirky guy, but Dan Campbell has them believing, and part of it is believing in yourself, and he has them doing.
And one thing they can do, man, they can on offense. They are very diverse. They can run the ball down your throat with Montgomery and Gibbs. They can throw it in the air. Jameson Williamson is coming on, so they got a lot of weapons. And it's a young team too, Derek. So
I don't want Bum Phillips, rest in peace. I don't want Bum Phillips, anyone to try to sue me, but I'm gonna say, I love you, blue.
hey, but Derek, we get it so backwards in the Motor City sometimes. The Lions have become good, and now the Pistons have become the Lions. Derek, they lost 28 straight games. And before they got a win the other night, I actually watched their game last night against Utah, winning the overtime. They're playing, you can see that they're playing with a sense of desperation now. And they're keeping games closer. But D, they never should have lost 28 straight games. When that happens, and you've never been a part of any of that. What do you think happens when a team gets into a funk like that?
Well, it's not a good feeling showing up at practice every day. I know that. We did go through a losing streak on the road. When I actually got to the Nets, to New Jersey, I believe they were on like a 16 or 17 game road losing streak. So that's ugly. And when you're talking about 28 games overall at home and on the road, that's really ugly. The thing I just don't understand, Ricky, and you've been keeping up with them, and I've been keeping up with them as well. They don't have an identity. I love Cade Cunningham, but if you look at it, what's the lineup from night to night? They don't have 1 minute Ivy's in the lineup. 1 minute Keaton Hayes is in the lineup. I just don't understand it. They sat down Asor Thompson. They brought him off the bench, who I thought was their number one energy guy.
Yeah.
Starting to play Alec Burks more, who I love. Bogdanovich. I mean, I don't understand the lineup. I don't understand Stewart still being with the team. Wiseman and Duran is the only one I give a pass. But when I look at Wiseman and I look at some of these other guys, man, Stewart, I don't understand the team, man. Bagley, what's the goal? Are they trying to make the lotto or what is it? Because if we're trying to win games, you can't do that without having a consistent lineup, and we haven't had that all season.
Derek, look, nothing against Stewart whatsoever, but I'm not playing him in front of James Wiseman and Marvin Bagley. I mean, he is my fourth big man. Number one, he's undersized for a center. James Wiseman is 7'1". Marvin Bagley is 6'11". Doran is, he's 6'10", 6'11", but he's very active. I don't see what Stewart brings them. I don't see what Killian Hayes brings them. And you're right. You never know who's playing
from night to night.
And so some of that's on. Well, I understand him. He's searching for sure. I get that. But man, you're playing guys who are you're not playing winning basketball.
Ricky, do they kind of remind you of, I'm not talking about the losing streak, but overall, as far as identity, do they kind of remind you of the Lakers with Darvin Ham and their lineup keeps changing? I don't see how you build chemistry when you change the lineup repeatedly. Don't you have to get with a certain lineup, and give it a period of time and see how it goes, whether it's good or bad, and then you make the adjustment? I don't think you just go by how I feel on a certain day. The day is Wednesday. I just don't think Killian's going to be ready tonight.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I love Monty. I love Monty personally. I know the man. I've been around him, talked to him, and it breaks my heart to see this happening to my hometown, born and raised. But I do have to factor Monty in there somewhat. Him and Troy Weaver. I wish they'd come out and tell people what the goal is, because as you know, the people of Detroit, we take the game very serious.
Very serious.
And you read some of the comments on a daily basis. I just want to know what's the end goal, and then I probably would be feel a little easier about things if I had that understanding.
That's so well said, Derek. And recently, Gore said that changes will be coming. So he didn't get into what that means. I don't know how Troy Weaver keeps his job after this. They're not going to fire Monty because they just hired him and gave him all the money. So there are going to be some trades. I mean, I don't know who you're going to trade. I think Bagley has some value. I mean, if you play Marvin Bagley 20 minutes, he's going to give you 12 to 14 points, 7, 8, 9 rebounds. That's what he's going to do.
Every night. And I'm a big Bagley fan. Remember, I like him and I like Wiseman. I like them both. And I think you got two big left-handers that you can use that to your advantage. They both have size. They both left-handed. And yes, that does make a difference, that left hand. I just say you got to give them the opportunity. It's not like they're going to the playoffs this year. So you got to get some kind of chemistry. And what better time than now? You got to let these guys play. And then if you have to make some moves come the trade deadline, you got till February the 8th to figure it out. But you got to at least get a lineup, one particular lineup, and go with those guys, whether it be 8 guys, 9 guys, and then see how that pans out. And if things don't work out, then you plan accordingly. You make your moves according to that. But Isaiah Stewart, and I don't think he's a bad player at all. I just think he doesn't fit the style of play that Monty's trying to implement in Detroit, and he's not going to be the only one moving. For some reason, Ricky, you know better than me. Does it seem like Monty likes Killian Hayes? It seems like he really likes Killian. He's fond of Killian.
And the same with Ivy. He keeps saying Ivy needs to be a better defender. Well, I get that, but man, everybody gets to the basket when Stewart is in the game because he's not a rim protector. That's one thing Wiseman can do.
I'm sorry, Ricky. I'm sorry.
Let me put it like this. And Stewart, and you're right. This is nothing against Stewart whatsoever, D.
I'm laughing because you just mentioned defense, right? Then we just give up like 154.
Yeah, last night, right? But Derek, they've actually played better the last week or so. They won that game, were very competitive against Boston, should have beat Boston. And all this has been since Stewart, I think he has an ankle sprain. So they've been better with him out of the lineup. I mean, that's just a fact.
I agree. I don't disagree at all. I'm not saying the guy's a bad player at all. I think he's a really good player. He just doesn't fit what they're trying to do in Detroit. I don't. He seems like to me the odd man out, and I like Killian Hayes defensively, but Killian's too up and down for me as well. So if I had to make any moves, me being the general manager, my first two moves would be to try to see what I could get for Killian and Stewart, and possibly together if I could skip them off both at the same time. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean trying to get some value for them
Yeah,
while they still have some value. Trying to
yeah,
bring in something in return.
yeah, yeah. But hey, the trust me, the Pistons aren't the only NBA team with problems. I mean, there's some problems at the top. The Bucks lost to Indiana for the fourth time last night. For some reason, Indy has Milwaukee's number. Um, and Indy, they're 19 and 14, so they are beatable. But if I'm sure they're thinking, man, if we see Milwaukee in the playoffs, we got a shot at them.
You know what they do to Milwaukee? They run on Milwaukee. Milwaukee's weakness right now, well, their weakness is defense, but their biggest weakness is transition defense. And if you really watch these games, a lot of teams are getting out early on Milwaukee after missed shot, and they're running the ball, and then they're spreading the floor. And if they can't get to the basket against Milwaukee, Brook Lopez and Giannis or Bobby Portis, then they're making the fast passes. They're moving the ball around, and the Bucks aren't closing out very well. And the reason part of that is because you lose a Drew Holiday, who's basically a first team every year, all NBA defensive guy. And when you
Yeah,
take him, that's perimeter defense. We know Dame has never been known for being a defender. He's been known as being a scorer. And Malik Beasley doesn't defend the way he used to a few years ago. So that's been hurting them. They got Cameron Payne, who's another undersized guard. And they just don't get up and down the floor fast enough. And they don't play great half-court defense. They have too many breakdowns from the guard position. And I don't even have Milwaukee as a top five, possibly. I don't even know if they top five, to be honest, right now in the Eastern Conference.
Derek. Okay, we know what Dame can do on the offensive end, but it seems like they were better with Drew Holiday running
You're
that.
going to have to overcompensate defensively. Now guys have to overcompensate defensively to stop players from getting to the rim. And that puts you out of position when it comes to closing out on these shooters. If you got to worry about a guy beating Dame to the basket, say Dame's playing against a Ja Morant, a guy you know can get in the paint against any team. So imagine how often he's going to get there against Dame. And then you got Brook has to try to run over there and be a help defender. You got Giannis try to be a help defender, which means if you swing the ball out to the corners or to the wing, guys are recovering late. And that's what's been happening to them. They've been giving up a lot of three-point shots, a lot of open three-point shots, and then they suffer in transition defense. They give up a lot of layups.
Yeah, yeah. They're giving up almost 120 points a game.
Ricky,
That's a lot for them. I mean, they
okay.
had one of the best defensive teams. I'm going to go back and look at their numbers from last year. I
I
bet
can
you
tell you
that's
this.
7 to 8 points higher.
Let me tell you this before you even look. Last season, they gave up at least 120 points in 21 games. This season already, they've given up at least 120 points in 18 games. They did it 21 games all last year. They've done it 18 times
Yeah,
already. That's
yeah.
a problem.
That's a problem. That's a problem. Now, if we're going to stay in the East and look at Boston, who's opened up a 3-game lead in the loss column at 26-7 over Milwaukee and Philly are essentially tied for the second spot. Philly's a half game behind with 23-10. But Boston, who has Drew Holiday, they're giving up 110 points a game now. So they're giving up
Boston,
10 less points a game than Milwaukee.
Boston has played, they got a really good record, but if you look at their biggest problem is they've given up too many 3-point shots, uncontested 3-point shots, and that's hurt them a little bit. They've been able to overcome that, but when you show them these weaknesses, they usually show up come playoff time. So that's something that they have to shore up. But as you know, it's become a scoring game. And guys have to remember that you got certain teams you just can't. You can't. Some teams they say you live and die by the three. There's certain teams I play against. I just don't want to die by the three. So if I'm playing a team like the Warriors or a really good shooting team, we have to make some defensive adjustments, and that's been a problem with a lot of teams this year.
Yeah. So really in the East, I mean, you always got to give Miami its respect because of what they're capable of doing in the playoff. But it's been Boston, Milwaukee, Philly, and Miami. Cleveland had climbed up there last year, but they are struggling a little bit this year. I mean, they're still 19 and 15. They're in the seventh spot. But I think the champion is going to come out of one of those top four teams, starting with Boston, Milwaukee, Philly, and Miami in the East. And I'm just throwing Miami in out of respect of what they're capable of doing.
Ricky, you should throw them in because they're better than last year.
Why you say that, D?
Miami, well, for one, they got a rookie who's one of the smartest rookies that's come in the league in years, Jaime Jaquez from UCLA. Well, beyond his years, they actually play. Right now, I think he might be leading the whole league in fourth quarter minutes, and he's a rookie. Yeah. And then they got Nikola Jovic, not Jokic, people, Jovic, Jovic, who they just started playing. He played well last night against the Lakers. And I just think they're a better team. They're doing this without Jimmy Butler, who's been out the last couple games. Kevin Love looked like he's looking kind of spry again. If they have to go to their bench for size, they have Thomas Bryant, who they brought in from the Nuggets. Duncan Robinson has improved dramatically. He started last year in the playoffs. He started going off the dribble. Yeah. That's something he has done his entire career. So he's improved. You look at Tyler Hero's healthy. He's playing quite well again. They just look like a very formidable team. And for me right now, I would have them second in the East behind Boston.
You like this team over Philly?
I like them a lot because I still don't know. To be honest, you know how much I like Philly because of Tobias. Being on the team, but I don't know. I'm not sold on Tobias and Kelly Oubre both being in the starting lineup. We're talking about winning. I'm looking at the big picture down the road, and I they lost some good players. Shaq Milton is gone, but they retained DeAnthony Melton. You got Embiid, of course. They lost Harden. Maxi's been playing great, but my question is, who's going to be that consistent third guy? Because right now we don't know who's the third wheel. If Embiid were to struggle or if Maxey were to struggle, who's that guy that's going to pick up the slack? And that has yet to be answered. And so for me, that's a question mark, a big question mark. And so I don't know how much I really believe in Philly at this time.
Yeah. And we don't know how these rosters are going to look in a few weeks as the trade deadline comes around. Because, we keep hearing about Levine over in Chicago and maybe DeRozan being on the move. And
Siakam.
And Siakam, yeah. And they traded Ginobili to went to New York the other day for R.J. Barrett and quickly. So Toronto is going to be willing to deal in. So we got to kind of you got to kind of wait and see where everybody's going to be after the trade deadline. But that will be interesting, and it's right around the corner. Like you said, we had the Knicks and the Raptors do a deal the other day, and there should be more to come. Let's go west. And if I told you Minnesota and Oklahoma City were the number 1 and 2 seeds in the West, would you believe me?
I would believe you about Oklahoma City. I wouldn't believe you about the Timberwolves, but I'm gonna have to do this. I'm gonna have to come out of my skin and give some love to my former partner, Paul Mokeski. You remember, Ricky, how Paul talked about Chris Finch last season,
Yeah.
and to see him come and put this team together when people were basically bashing the team, like they had gave away the franchise to get Rudy Gobert. If you look at it today, they say about hindsight being 20/20, but if you look at it today, it would look like the Timberwolves won that deal because Rudy's playing quite well. He's playing like a defensive MVP again. Karl Anthony Towns has stayed within himself. He's accepted that he's the second option. We're watching Anthony Edwards become a superstar right in front of our eyes. They've got some production from a lot of guys. Nazi Reed has been coming in playing well. They look like a really solid team. I don't know how that'll translate as the season moves on and as we get near the playoffs. But right now, the Timberwolves look legit. They look like they want definitely a contender, a serious contender.
See, I look at them like I look at the Lions. Yeah, they're a nice young team, but I'm just not ready to trust them.
Well, so if you're not ready to trust them, then you're definitely not ready to trust the only team I think can knock off the Nuggets, and that's the OKC Thunder.
No, I'm not ready to trust them, D. Tell me why I should trust them.
Well, I've been watching them all season, and it started last year. First, I'm gonna say Big Chet being an addition. I know a lot of people say that they think it's unfair that you can be there a year and then come out and play the following year and be considered a rookie. But that's how it's been. It hasn't just gotten that way. So I think Chet has been a huge addition. And if you look at it, I know Josh Giddey has been going through some things off the court but that's been kind of quiet lately. But I just think if you look at their starting lineup, Jaden Williams, you got Holmgren, you got Lou Dort. I think they have a starting five in the league. And then I think they also have the best guard in the league. To me, he's been the best guard for the last 2 years, and that's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And I just think Mark Daigneault has done a fantastic job. I think Sam Presti with all the draft picks and letting these guys grow. See, they're not going out getting guys. They're trusting their farm system, basically, as we say. And that's what I'm happy to see. And I think they're legit. I just think they're really hard to guard from top to bottom. Isaiah, Joe,
and one thing about them, they got so many draft picks. If they wanted to do business in this trade deadline, they got more ammunition than anybody. With all those first round draft picks, I don't know if they would be wanting to do anything because they're in pretty good shape right there. They're just a game out of first, and Denver's lurking 24-11 right there. The team that's been playing better than anybody in the West are the Clippers. And when James went over there, James Harden, I think they were 0-5, 0-6. But, man, they have really clicked. And when you bring in a guy that dynamic, it's going to take a minute, isn't it, Derek?
Yeah, it's going to take a minute, but the problem, I just think when they figured out the lineup and all that, and, Ty Lue was trying to play Paul George, Kawhi, Harden, and Russ. And supposedly Russ went in and asked to come off the bench. And if he did that, I had commented after he did that, I thought that was a spectacular move. A lot of people think I'm not a Westbrook fan. I like Russ. I just don't like Russ when he's playing 30 minutes plus. I think if Ty Lue can keep Westbrook like they're playing right now, 15 to 25 minutes, and he keeps playing like basically I said that this is how they could succeed. If Russ played like a PJ Tucker, and what I mean by that is just stand within himself, making the hustle plays, getting those offensive rebounds, those extra possessions, and scoring when the opportunity presents itself without him dominating the ball. I thought if he just bought into the system, that they would be a very good team. And so far, he's bought in. James is actually playing the team game instead of that I am the what did he say, that nonsense about he is the system.
I am the system.
He's learned that he's the system after Kawhi Leonard and after Paul George.
Yeah.
If he can continue to play that way, and then the Clippers can go far.
He said, "I am the system, man." They are very dangerous. I still think the West.
I mean, that's not even.
Go ahead,
Ricky. That's not that's the team thing to say though. Why would you say something like that? And you trying to move to a new team, and then you gonna talk about you're not a system player. You are the system. That is as arrogant as it gets, man. And I'm just glad right now he's being quiet and he's letting his game speak for
him. Yeah, I know. I know. But you look at the West, man. You got Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Denver, Clippers, Sacramento is still dangerous. The Pelicans 21-14. Dallas has firepower 20-15. Houston is 17-15. Two of the most disappointing teams to me. Three of them really, or maybe they're just what they are now, have been Phoenix, the Lakers,
Warriors,
and
the Warriors. Now, Ricky, tell me this. What would you think about none of those three? One of them is going to climb into that 9th or 10th spot, probably two of them. But could you even picture a year where you don't have Kevin Durant in the playoffs, you don't have LeBron James in the playoffs, and you don't have Steph Curry in the playoffs?
Wow, it's a new day, baby. It's a new day.
Look at it, they're all down. Aren't they all like near 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12 or whatever right now?
Yeah. The Golden State is 11, Lakers 10, Phoenix 9. Yeah.
9, 10, 11. Unbelievable. So what this says, Ricky, is the trade deadline is going to be huge this year because if you think about it, there's about 7 or 8 teams. There's no team that has stood out above anyone this year. It's kind of like the NFL, where everybody thought it was the 49ers. 1 week it was the Cowboys. 1 week it's the Eagles. It's the same in the NBA. There's no clear-cut favorite to win it all. So you're going to have a whole lot of general managers that are going to be doing their due diligence in this next month and going for that championship because there are going to be a lot of moves, and a lot of teams are one guy away from possibly being a true championship contender.
Who would be Levine has been the name I've heard so much about, and he really has not played that great this year. But is it anybody you think he would help? Could he be a difference maker somewhere, or a guy like DeRozan?
For me, I like Levine going to a team. There's several teams he could help. I mean, even the Clippers could add another scorer. Levine with the Lakers. For me, Levine with the Lakers was great. And his teammate, DeMar DeRozan, down the road to New York City, Madison Square Garden. Those are the two moves I'm going to be watching. And, of course, Siakam could help any team because I don't believe he has to have the ball. He needs a little more than Anunoby, but he's a team player. So just seeing where those three guys are going to end up, all three of them could be very impactful for a team heading down the stretch, talking about winning the championship. I'm going to really be watching those three.
Hey, you are in San Antonio. How is it the development of Wemby coming along?
I
Wembyana.
think he's coming along well. They just barely lost. They gave the game away just a minute ago to the Bucks. But I think he's coming along well. Right now, I know people are gonna think I'm crazy, but I got him second in the Rookie of the Year voting behind Chet Holmgren. And people keep saying about his roster is not as good and this and that, but all my response to that is, oh well. So you
Yeah.
talking about winning the award? It's supposed to be about,
Right.
well, I'm saying it's supposed to be about the value of that team, right? And
Right.
Chet has stepped right in, and if you look at it, they're second in the Western Conference. So to me, that puts him over Wembanyama, over a 5-27 record. I just can't give a guy Rookie of the Year, and they might win 10, 15 games out of 82 games. That doesn't even make sense to me, no matter how popular he is.
Right. I'm looking at his line from the night they lost 125, 121 to the Bucks. He had 27 points, 9 rebounds, 5 blocks. That's a good night's work. Uh, Giannis had 44 points, and
44.
Lillard had 25. Yeah, and Middleton's not the same. Just going back to the Bucks for them, I, he's not the player he was 3 or 4 years ago. Derek, I
No,
think
he's played
injuries
well
have.
the last, like,
Yeah, go ahead.
he's played well the last Ricky, but yeah, you're right. He hasn't been the same. If you remember when him and Devin Booker traveled overseas to play for the team USA,
Yeah,
Middleton hasn't been the same since. That's about 2 years now. He's played well the last week or so, but he's not the same guy he was. You can see that he's had a little fall off. He's still a very good player, but the thing for Milwaukee now, Ricky, with him being kind of healthy now, is what do you do in crunch time when you have to take the ball out of Giannis's hands? Because we know Giannis is not the greatest free throw shooter. So when you're playing against a good team and the game is on the line, now who's going to be that guy that takes the ball? Is it going to be Dame or is it going to be Middleton? So I don't know if Adrian Griffin has figured that out yet or even thought about it. But that's going to be something that he's going to have to be mindful about moving forward.
hey, just a couple more minutes left. I read a story today that Darvin Ham could be in trouble.
Oh yeah,
What do you think
that
about that?
sounds accurate to me. I think he's in trouble. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna tell you how much trouble he's in. This road, they got a 10-game homestand, I believe, and 9 of those games are against teams other than the Clippers. They got 9 games, 10 games that's going to decide his future in LA. They lost last night, so that's 1 game. So they got 10 more on this homestand. And I'm telling you now, if they don't go like 9-2 or 8-3 on this road trip, on this homestand, I think that we're watching the end of Darvin Ham. For some reason, he doesn't seem to hit it off well with Austin Reeves. He finally put Austin Reeves back in the starting lineup last night, and that's the first time since December the 8th that he's been in the starting lineup. And I think that's a problem because if you look at it, the Lakers are the worst first quarter team in the NBA. And that mean they're not getting out the box like they should. So you got to have that third scorer for AD and LeBron. And that, to me, that's Austin Reeves. That goes without question. So Darvin's going to have to put his feelings aside, give Austin Reeves 30 to 35 minutes, quit trying to preserve him, talking about saving his legs, and he's 24. He's not 39. So he's going to have to give in, and he's going to have to get all more involved, or he's going to be looking for a new job soon.
Hey, last thing. Can the Golden State Warriors turn this around?
Yes, if they make a move at the trade deadline, but here's the thing: you bring up the Warriors, Ricky. We still don't know what they're going to do as far as bringing Draymond back. And the reason I say that is because I notice people get upset when I say things, but Steph is not the same without Draymond. And that's been proven to me time and time again over the years. Steph is still a great player, but he's missing things with those screens, the timing that he has with Draymond. You know, Draymond, Clay, and Steph, just certain thing about those three, how they play together. And it's certain, as you know, Steph and John are making a lot of decisions. So they got to figure out, first of all, are they going to even bring John back? Because if you bring him back, what does that do to Kuminga's confidence? They've already sat Moses Moody down for whatever the reason. He's back on the bench. And now you got to figure out what you're going to do with Jonathan Kuminga. How does bring Draymond back upset the chemistry? So they still got questions in Golden State.
Yeah. Well, man, hey, this hour flew by, D, but we're back, man, for 2024. We'll do it again next Thursday. Any final
I look forward. Yeah, man, I'm happy to see you again. I just hope you and the wife are doing. And if I can say her, can I say her name on the air?
Yeah, yeah.
You and Kathy. Hey, Kathy. Yeah, I just hope that I'm glad to see that you're doing well, man. I'm glad that y'all back. Hey, it's just been a heck of a. You got to get out a little bit, get around a little bit. I'm happy to see you doing well, and I'm just glad to be back and seeing you, my friend.
Same to you, brother. We'll do it again next Thursday. For Derek Gervin, I'm Rick Hampton. Peace, everybody. See you next week.
Rick, I love you. Everybody have a great night. Happy New Year.
Love you too, brother.